The GTV6 guy here. Wanted to do a real quick video for you tonight because I'm bored, it's raining, I don't have much to do in the garage until some engine bearings arrive from England. So I wanted to do a quick video about tools. So what I wanted to talk about is, guys who are, maybe getting into their first classic Italian project, whether it be an old Fiat or an old Lancia, an old Alfa Romeo, whatever it is, and you're on a budget. And the cars themselves might not be that expensive to get into, but once you start the restoration process, buying parts, pieces, painting parts of the car, things like that, things can escalate exponentially quickly, and things will just snowball before you know it. So we all try to kind of contain costs somewhere. And I know we don't necessarily want to cut costs on the cars themselves, because that ultimately is what people are going to see, what they're going to get close to, what they're going to feel, touch, drive in. You don't want to cut corners when it comes to the car. So if you're just getting into this, tools are going to be something you will need. And everyone gets a little bit freaked out by the cost of tools, especially because a lot of people will really push things they like. Oh, you have to have Snap-on. You have to have Mac tools. Oh, you better not even think about working on anything unless you take a second mortgage on your house, sell your kidney and your children into slavery, and you buy out everything on the Snap-on truck. And I'm going to tell you guys, that's just not true. It's not necessary. You can get good quality tools and not have to spend too much money. Now, I'm not saying if you spend absolutely nothing or as little to nothing as possible, you're not going to get some junk. You will. But if you're smart about it and you know where to look, and you go online and you read reviews and go on YouTube, it's all very helpful and there's lots of good information. And I'm here to tell you that you can get started for not a lot of money and get enough stuff that you can do a good sized project very competently and very efficiently, and not have to go into debt or not have to take out a mortgage on your house or not have to spend your car's budget, your project budget on the tools to do the project. So I just want to talk to you guys about a few things, just basic tools you can get at, say, a Harbor Freight, something like that. I used to really poo-poo Harbor Freight, and I've got into it more, especially really getting deep into projects with working on alphas and things like that, where I want all my money to go into the car. I want to buy the best parts for the car possible. I want the best services. So if I'm going to have my transmission, my transaxle redone, I want to put in real good quality components, good clutch parts. I want to send it to a good quality guy who knows what he's doing and not going to guess at the work. So that might mean spending a little extra money. I would rather spend that little extra money on that part or that thing on the car versus the tools and then not having the project be what I ultimately wanted it to be. I don't want to cut corners on the car for tools. So what I'm here to tell you is you can get some good stuff and get a project going, get it underway, and do it efficiently and not have to break the bank. So let's talk about a few things. These are my kind of personal things that I would say if you walk into a Harbor Freight or a Home Depot or stuff like that, they all have their kind of line of tools, whether it be Cobalt and Husky and things like that. But if you're a Harbor Freight guy like me and you know what you're looking for and you do a little bit of research, you can find some good stuff that's actually proven to be pretty good quality. And it'll last quite a long time. In a professional, everyday environment working on diesel trucks, that's one thing. Occasionally working in the garage on a home project car or a light duty car or a motorcycle, something like that, you can get away with, going a little bit more, we'll say, economic with your tools. So a few things that I really like, and I think that if you were to acquire that, you would be off to a real good running start with tools for your project. So let's talk about a few things. We'll just kind of randomly kick around here. First and foremost, one of the things I really like are, you can get these at Harbor Freight. They're like $4 or $5. And this is just a mini pick and hook kit. So it's just different little picks and hooks. These work great for you know, picking O-rings, gaskets, if you need to scrape something. Sometimes you know, we've all done it where we use a really small flathead screwdriver and try to kind of get in, and we end up scratching and scoring things. This is the ticket right here. For $4 or $5, you can solve that problem of never having to use a little tiny flathead screwdriver to try to kind of pick at things. Get some real picks. They're cheap. So that's that. Next thing, lighting. Home project, garages, you could never have enough light. You could put your project on the sun and it would still not be enough light to see every nook and cranny that you need to see on your car, whatever it is. So lighting is a big thing. I have a couple of added LED overhead lights in my garage. Got them at Harbor Freight. They were like 20 bucks a piece. I use them all the time, constantly. They work fine. I have not had an issue. They just throw around a lot more light. Little flashlights like this. I get these at Harbor Freight. These are great just for, you know, holding in your hand. If you're on your back, you can look up, do what you need to do. It's magnetized. You know, I think this was like $5. This little light right here, another little LED light. I keep this in the pocket on my set of coveralls for when I'm working in the garage. So if I'm under there and I don't have a flashlight anywhere near me, I've got one on me at all times. So I can, you know, take that out and, you know, spot what I'm looking at and get a little, you know, just a little bit of light is better than no light. And I'd rather have something on me than nothing, especially when I've crawled under the car and I'm laying there and my chest is pressed up against the chassis and my back is on the car. You know, I'd rather have this than try to dig myself out from under the car, grab a flashlight, and then shove myself back under there. So having something is better than nothing. And again, these just $4 or $5, aluminum body. I've dropped this thing in antifreeze. I've dropped it on the concrete. I've kicked it around and it just keeps working. So good investment. Like again, $4 or $5. Lights, always have to have lights. Basic tools. If you're going to Harbor Freight, look for their line of Pittsburgh Pro. Now, there is Pittsburgh, and a lot of people will poo-poo it as cheap and all that, and you kind of feel it, and you go, yeah, the metal feels kind of light. Like, it's just not as dense. Probably not forged. But anyway, look for the Pittsburgh Pro line of tools. Generally, their wrenches, things like that, will have this kind of rubberized black and red grip. This is what you want to get. Again, not too much money, but it's a decent ratchet. It's, you know, again, living every day on a heavy-duty machinery line or something like that, it might not live that long of a life. For me, in my garage, where I'm using this thing a couple times a week, and when I'm done with it, I clean it up. You can service it. You can pull off this plate, clean out the grease and the oil, put new grease and oil in it, so it's serviceable. This should live a happy life. And if it doesn't, you take it in. They've got a great warranty program on this stuff. And to start with, I think this was 30 bucks, 25 bucks, something like that. This is my 1/2-inch drive ratchet. So again, the cost is not crazy. If I were to ever lose it, break it, whatever, and I couldn't warranty it, it's not going to break the bank to replace it for 25 or 30 bucks. So again, Pittsburgh Pro. This is their breaker bar. Pittsburgh Pro breaker bar. If you YouTube this, several YouTubers have reviewed this specific tool against Snap-on, Mac, etc. This was a $25 breaker bar, 20 bucks, I think, maybe with a coupon. They compared this thing to $150 breaker bars. It did as well. It did everything it was supposed to do. It didn't permanently deflect or bend and stay bent or anything like that. It works well. I use this to tear down the block for my GTV6, pulling off the heads and then taking off all the crank caps and all of the cap rod or the cap bolts for the connecting rods for the pistons. So I just use this to just kind of get everything broken loose, and then I just use my DeWalt 1/4-inch impact, and I just backed everything out. Not to impact anything. You don't want to impact. I didn't use the impact. It was just to use it as a drill to just back everything out with a socket on there. So don't think I used an impact to break loose a bunch of bolts on the con rods and stuff. I didn't do that. So don't do that. So that's those. Again, not very much money. The socket sets that would accompany these, again, Not very much money, 25, 30 bucks for your common, 10-piece socket set. It'll do just fine in your garage for light duty stuff like you're doing, light to medium duty. Wrenches like these. This is my combination wrench. I love having a Ratchet combination wrench. And this one swivels. So again, you can get a set of these, top, I think it was 7 sizes, anywhere from 8 millimeter up to 17 or 19 millimeter, I can't remember. But again, like 25 bucks. I use the hell out of these things, and they have worked just fine. Not a problem with them. So again, they're serviceable. You can take the bolts and the screws and things out, and you can grease them and oil them and all that kind of stuff. So again, will it live all my life? Probably not. Will it live a decade? Probably. And if I get a decade out of a tool that out of a set costs me 25 bucks, I'm happy with that. I'm good with it. So wrenches, sockets, things like that. Pliers. These are their new line. These are Doyle. They're branded Doyle. And I've seen a few YouTube reviews on these where some, I would say probably professional mechanics have seen these, used these, compared them to Mac tools, things like that, and compared them as far as quality, feel, the metal, the grips, everything. And a couple of those guys have ascertained that these are very likely coming out of the same factory as the Mac tools. And I've used those. I've borrowed friends' really nice pliers and stuff like that. And these feel really nice. And again, I think this set of needle nose were 11 or 12 bucks. This set of adjustables were 12 bucks, 13 bucks, 14, 15, I can't remember. They were both under 20 bucks a piece. Now, that's traditionally not Harbor Freight cheap, but these feel, look, sound, everything like very high quality tools. And you gotta have pliers in your garage for doing just basic stuff. So again, if you're getting started on a project, a car, whatever it is, you need some sets of pliers. Needle nose, great. A set of adjustables, that will cover you for about 90% of everything you're gonna do. So these are great. And see, this. I did a quick video about this, and I won't talk too much about it, but this is the Harbor Freight Earthquake XT, there you go, 3/8 cordless 12-volt ratchet. Power tools are always going to be a necessity in your garage when you get started on some of these projects and you're getting underway. If I was going to say the first power tool you're going to gravitate towards and you should get is a ratchet. Just makes life easier, especially when you're breaking bolts loose. Just grab your ratchet, throw a socket on it, and back it off all the way. It'll save you from sitting there ratcheting away for 10, 20, 30 seconds. Click, 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 click. Put a ratchet on it, 5 seconds, you're done, move on. So I got this, I think I paid $129 when I bought this a few weeks ago. There's currently a coupon out that I saw for this for $99. So I went in and I got the $30 difference back, and then I spent it in the store and got a few things that I had wanted. Mainly, I got a set of combination wrenches, little stubby ones that are like 3 or 4 inches long, just for getting into tight spaces. I love wrenches, things like that, especially combination wrenches. So I wanted a little short stubby set, so I got those. But again, one of your first power tools, get yourself a ratchet like this. It doesn't have to be a Harbor Freight one. If you have some more money to spend, there's Milwaukee makes a great one. It's $250, things like that. But again, we're on a budget. You're looking to get something very quality for your money that will last a long time, but you can put the money, you can pour the money back into the project itself. This is a good buy. So I would say this is a great thing to have. Second to last thing that I'm going to throw at you guys. A good jack and jack stands. This, I got at Harbor Freight, of course. This is a Pittsburgh aluminum low-profile jack. Now, I specifically got a low profile because my car, my Alpha, is low. It's lower to the ground. It is cut down in height by 1.5 inches or so on the front and back. So getting a jack under there, a normal jack, it's almost impossible to find a point where you can actually slide the jack under and hit a good jacking point. So Harbor Freight has these. I believe this was $100, $120 if I remember right, maybe a little bit less. But it's all aluminum construction, very lightweight. It does jack up very fast. That's nice. And it goes down real easy. So, 3 or 4 pumps and you'll be well underway. I've used this thing to jack up my Alpha and get all my jack stands and things like that under it. I have aluminum jack stands that I got from, again, Harbor Freight. Not crazy expensive. I like the aluminum only because the car, the Alpha, is not that heavy. It weighs about as much as a home refrigerator. So I didn't need big, heavy steel jack stands. Aluminums will work just fine. And again, I think I spent $50 on those, and they're aluminum, lightweight, easy to move around. And then when you're storing them on shelves, shelves will have a weight capacity. So you have to keep that kind of thing in mind. So any weight you can save, not only on your jack stand, but when you're storing it, and then that just means you could store more stuff on that shelf because you're saving weight. So kind of like with cars, you want to save weight. Some things you want to save weight when it comes to your tools. I'm not saying put a Ford Expedition on a set of aluminum stands, but for a little Alpha, Fiat, something like that, more than adequate. So a good jack. I've been using this jack now for well over a year, and I've had zero issues with it jacking up, the Alpha, my wife's Prius, working on things like that. And I wouldn't use this I would not use this for jacking up, say, my work truck, which is a Ford F-150. Might be a little heavy for it. I wouldn't feel good about it. But for a small car, this is more than adequate. And lastly, get these out of the way. A good, a good workstation or a good, tool cart. My wife actually got this for me for my birthday because I already have a workbench area that rolls, but I wanted a tool cart. So she got me a tool cart. So this is a Harbor Freight tool cart. It's blue, of course, and Harbor Freight's now doing these things in red, green, blue, orange, yellow, I think. So they do all kinds of colors. I like blue, so she got me blue. But this thing it's great. I've got probably 80% of the tools I would use to work on the car or any car on any given day, whether I'm doing an oil change on the Prius or I'm working in the garage on the Alpha, and I just roll it where I want it to go. And then, you open it up and you've got a nice rubberized surface in here. You can store your tools and things like that. And this is kind of a good work surface. Or you can use this as a work surface. You've got all your drawers for stuff, but you can store the tools you've bought in your cart and put them all away. And you can roll this. It doesn't take a lot of space. You can use it as a worktop. So it's versatile, it's small, you can roll it around. So that is, I would say a must have, because you don't want your tools thrown into a canvas bag or something like that. You want them all organized, accessible. You want to be able to access them in your garage or roll them to where you're going to be working. And this rolls very easily. The casters are very good. Very heavy duty. They lock in place, so it won't roll away if you're in your driveway and you happen to be on a slope or something like that. So, and these, I think she said she got it with a coupon. I think like $230 or $240. And it has a 550-pound rating on it. I haven't tested it, but I have stood on top of it to reach up high and do some things. I weigh 200 and, it didn't creak under me at all. So 500 pounds, yeah, maybe. I could see that. I don't know if I would personally test it. 400 pounds, that's probably about where I would feel comfortable. Much above that, some things you just don't want to test the limits of. But yeah, a good tool cart, definitely something you're going to want to have. And again, you can get something like this on a good budget that'll last you a long time if you take care of it, keep it clean, oil or grease the caster bearings. If you scratch the paint off of it or whatnot, touch it up, or at least just don't let it rust and rot. Everything on it is serviceable. It's got gas springs, so that's nice. And these gas springs are very common gas springs, so these are easily replaceable if they were to ever go out on you. But other than that, it's a decent quality tool cart. And it just makes life in the garage a lot easier, where you can keep your tools always at arm's length. So that is, I would say, some of the basics, the basic necessities just to get started on your auto project, your home auto project. If you're a teenager or you work part-time and you're just looking to start buying some tools and you don't have a lot of money, go start looking in this direction. There's no shame in not buying the most expensive tools. That's fine. Let other suckers buy all the expensive tools and then always be struggling to keep up with parts for their cars and things like that. Buy the good stuff for your car and have adequate tools to put it all together. Because then your car, ultimately, you win. The car is a better presented car. And the things that nobody else sees, which are the tools in your garage, who cares? So just be smart with your money. Think economically. So there's no shame in that at all. Trust me, there is not. Zero. I'd rather have a better car than better tools. That's just me personally. Maybe you guys don't feel that way. Maybe you do. But just getting started, there's some basics. I think I've taken up enough of your time gabbing about this, but tools and things like that are kind of, they're a necessity. They're things we need, especially for our projects. And I'm just here to tell you that you don't have to spend, as much as the project on the tools to do the project. Be smart about it. Hunt around online. Go on YouTube. Look for reviews on things. Generally, I would say when it comes to Harbor Freight stuff, if it has almost perfect reviews, like 4.5 or 5 stars, whatever the review system is, it's going to be a pretty good bet. If it's a 2-star thing, I'm going to stay away from it. But generally, a lot of their Pittsburgh Pro line of tools, and even some of their new power tools, their Impacts, the cordless Ratchet, stuff like that, 5-star reviews. YouTube, good reviews. I've used it. I can say it's good. I would review it as a good tool, things like that. So if you have any comments or questions, put them below. Also, you can go to Instagram. I am on Instagram. I post pictures of the car, the progress, things like that, beauty shots that people have shot of the car and sent to me. And it is, I'm trying to remember the Instagram, but it's basically, I think it's Alfa Romeo GTV6 Quattrofolio. Or some variation of that. But I'm pretty sure it's Alfa Romeo GTV6 Quattrofolio. You'll see it. It's a red Alfa Romeo GTV6 with a green nose.